They called it a Christmas miracle when the fighting stopped. Snow fell softly over the small border town of Alders Ridge, muting the distant echoes of gunfire that had defined life there for years. For the first time in a long while, the streets were quiet. Candles glowed in windows. Church bells rang without fear of being drowned out by sirens or shots. And in the middle of it all stood Jonah Hale, a man most people barely noticed until the night everything changed. Jonah was a cleaner at the municipal hall. He swept floors after powerful men finished their meetings, erased chalkboards filled with plans he was never meant to read, and kept his head down. To Mayor Calvin Royce, Jonah was invisible, or worse, expendable. Royce ruled Alders Ridge with a smile that never reached his eyes. He was credited with negotiating the Christmas Truce, a temporary ceasefire between two violent factions tearing the town apart. Cameras flashed as Royce shook hands with militia leaders, proclaiming peace in the spirit of the season. The town applauded, donations poured in, and Jonah watched from the back of the crowd, clutching his mop handle like a lifeline. What no one knew was that Jonah had already paid dearly for this so-called peace. 2 years earlier, his younger brother, Eli, had been killed, caught in the crossfire of a deal Royce publicly denied ever approving. The case was closed within days, evidence misplaced, witnesses silenced. Jonah learned quickly what Alders Ridge already understood. Truth did not survive where power lived. So, when Royce summoned Jonah on Christmas Eve, Jonah knew it wasn't for gratitude. The mayor's office smelled of pine and expensive cologne. Royce didn't look up as Jonah entered. "Close the door," he said calmly. "I need you to do something discreet." Royce explained that as part of the truce, sensitive documents had to be secured. Files that, if leaked, could misinterpret the mayor's role in past operations. Jonah was to transport a sealed box to an old storage building by the river and burn it. No questions, no delays. Jonah nodded. He always did. But as he lifted the box, he felt it, too heavy for paper alone. And when the corner tore slightly, he saw a flash drive slide against the cardboard. That night, instead of heading to the river, Jonah went home. His apartment was cold, barely lit. He plugged in the drive, his hands shaking. What he saw made his stomach twist. Recordings, transaction logs, surveillance clips, proof that Mayor Royce had orchestrated violent clashes, funded both sides, and ordered cover-ups, including the one that buried Eli's death. The truce wasn't about peace. It was about erasing history. Outside, the town sang carols. Inside, Jonah faced a choice that felt heavier than the box itself. By morning, the storage building by the river was ash, just as Royce demanded. The mayor smiled on television, praising Jonah publicly for his dedication as a town worker. No one noticed. Jonah's eyes, quiet, resolved, burning with something new. The power shift had already begun. Over the next days, small things started happening. Anonymous tips led journalists to old witnesses who suddenly felt safe talking. A former aide resurfaced with ledgers matching the leaked files. Royce laughed it off at first, called it holiday hysteria. But then came the arrest, not Royce's. One of his closest enforcers was found dead in his car, staged as a suicide. The town panicked. The truce held, but fear crept back in. Rumors spread of betrayal, of secrets unraveling. Royce called emergency meetings, furious, paranoid. He demanded loyalty tests, background checks. Silence. And Jonah kept sweeping floors. On New Year's Eve, Royce finally snapped. He confronted Jonah alone in the municipal hall, his voice low and shaking. "You saw something," Royce hissed. "Didn't you?" Jonah looked up for the first time, really looked at him. "Yes," he said softly. "I saw everything." Royce's face drained of color. He reached for his phone, but it was already too late. Sirens wailed outside. Federal agents flooded the building. Evidence, irrefutable and overwhelming, had been delivered anonymously to multiple agencies. Too many copies to erase, too public to bury. Royce was led away in handcuffs on the first day of the new year. The town watched in stunned silence. Justice, it seemed, had finally arrived. Jonah stood among the crowd, unnoticed again, and that was fine. But as the snow fell once more, Jonah received a message on an unregistered phone he didn't remember owning. "You did well, but you burned the wrong box." Jonah's breath caught. Attached was a photo. Another storage building, another date, another name, circled in red. Someone else had known. Someone else had planned for this. The Christmas truce had ended, and the deadliest decision was still unfolding. The box that survived the fire. The message haunted Jonah long after the fireworks faded and the town staggered into the new year. Another box, another building, another name. Alders Ridge had celebrated Mayor Royce's arrest as the end of an era. But Jonah knew better now. Power never vanished. It only changed hands. And someone had been watching him long before he ever touched that flash drive. The next morning, Jonah returned to work as if nothing had changed. He pushed his cart through empty corridors. Past framed photos already taken down, Royce's smiling face removed as though it had never been there. But the municipal hall felt wrong. Too quiet, like a place holding its breath. Every echo of Jonah's footsteps sounded louder, heavier. By noon, the town buzzed with rumors. Royce was talking, they said, cutting deals, naming names, and that terrified people far more than his arrest ever had. Jonah overheard hushed conversations, caught fragments of fear. Alders Ridge had been built on secrets, and secrets were starting to bleed. That night, Jonah drove to the coordinates attached to the message. The building sat miles outside town, half swallowed by trees, its windows boarded up long ago. Snow crunched beneath his boots as he approached. His heart pounded the way it had the night he lost Eli, fast, helpless, angry. Inside, the air smelled of rust and oil, and there it was, another box, identical, untouched. Jonah didn't open it this time. He already knew what it contained. Evidence doesn't disappear easily, it multiplies. And as he turned to leave, a voice cut through the darkness. "You always were." "Careful!" The man stepped into the light. Slow and deliberate, Marcus Bell, former head of town security, a ghost, declared missing months before Royce's arrest. Marcus smiled. Royce thought he owned everything. He forgot about the people who cleaned up after him. The truth landed hard. The leaks, the timing, the staged death of the enforcer. None of it had been random. Jonah hadn't dismantled the system alone. He'd been guided, used. "You killed him?" Jonah said, his voice shaking. Marcus shrugged. He killed dozens. Balance had to be restored. Jonah felt sick. He had wanted justice, not blood. But Marcus leaned closer, his tone cold. Don't pretend you didn't understand the risk. You chose this path the moment you didn't burn the first box. Before Jonah could respond, headlights swept across the building, sirens, too many. Someone had tipped them off. Marcus vanished through a side door, leaving Jonah standing beside the box as agents burst in, guns raised. Jonah was arrested without resistance, evidence tampering, obstruction, accessory. The headlines were brutal. Janitor turned mastermind. The town that once ignored him now needed a villain. In the holding cell, Jonah waited for fear to consume him. Instead, he felt calm, because he knew something they didn't. The box had already been copied, delivered, timed. 2 weeks later, the indictments dropped. Not just Royce, not just his enforcers. Business leaders, judges, donors, people who had never touched a weapon, but signed checks that spilled blood. Alders Ridge watched its foundations crack. Jonah was released quietly. Charges dismissed. No apology, no explanation. Justice, when it finally came, was never neat. As winter deepened, Jonah visited Eli's grave for the first time since Royce's arrest. Snow covered the headstone. Jonah brushed it clean, his breath shaking in the cold. "I did what I could," he whispered. His phone vibrated. One message, one line. "You passed the test. Now comes the hard part." Attached was a list of names. Far beyond. Alders Ridge. Cities, dates, patterns. Repeating like a sickness. Jonah looked up at the darkening sky. The truce had been a lie. The peace had been temporary. And the war he'd stumbled into was far bigger than one town, one mayor, or one Christmas miracle. Somewhere, Marcus Bell was still watching. And Jonah understood the cruel irony too late. Justice had been served, but the cost was no longer his choice.